Hello and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. With me now is IPFW head men's basketball coach Andy Piazza. Andy, your team won 2 out of 3 games this week, suffered a setback on Saturday, losing to Kentucky Wesleyan at home. Let's start out with the USI game. You played a team, normally one of the more competitive teams in the league this year. They've slipped a little, have a lot of new faces. One key player in Chris Bowles, a player up among the league leaders in scoring and rebounding. You're able to win the game fairly handily.
Well, yeah, Southern Indiana, they beat us twice last year, and they were 19-9 last year. And last year's team, they beat University of Wisconsin at Wisconsin, the Big Ten school, and they battled Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. very well also. The problem, they were predicted by the coaches to be 4th in the league this year, one ahead of us. We were 5th in the preseason poll, but only 3 of the players came back to Southern Indiana this year. I think they could have had 7 or 8 potential returning lettermen, and only 3 came back. For what reason, I do not know. And consequently, they have a lot of new faces, like you said, but they have 3 Division I transfers and 2 junior college transfers. So everybody thought the Division I transfers would really be something. And consequently, they aren't playing very well. I don't know if it's chemistry or it's the fact that those players just aren't good enough for our league or whatever the situation is, but as you said, they're last place in our conference. So they go from one of the elite teams in our conference to the last place in the conference right now. And this is the first year we've swept them in 3 years. And like you said, beat them decisively, even though we had a large lead, and they cut it to 2, and then we had we ran it up again. It's a situation where our kids just played very well, played hard, and Chris Bowles, like you mentioned, is a great player. Was a newcomer of the year last year. He's a Division I transfer from Western Kentucky University, and we were able to hold him down offensively. He was 7 for 20, I think, from the floor against us. Where at their place, he really hurt us. He had 27 points, I think, in 25 minutes of playing time. And that was the second game of the week. The first game we played at Goshen College. Goshen's a very good NAIA program, 15-7 going into the game. They beat Eureka College at Eureka College. Eureka College is ranked number 1 in the nation in the NAIA poll. And we were down, amazingly down 22 points, I think, with 11 minutes to go. And we were able to come back and win the game by 4. So it was a situation where Saturday was our 3rd game this week, but we had light practices, only an hour, 15 minutes, not super intense, make sure the kids had fresh legs and fresh minds, things like that. And against Kentucky Wesleyan, the first half we didn't play very well defensively. I mean, we were shooting the ball okay. In the second half, they just turned it up again. They were amazing from 3-point range. And combine that with they had 30 more free throw attempts than us. It was hard to play catch up. They're a very good team. You get behind 8, 9, 10 points like that. They handled our press pretty decently in a half-court situation. We trapped. They handled it pretty well. And they had 3 players, actually, that are support players just step forward and have great games. Michael Gray and Devine, the point guard and the small forward, usually between them they average like 16 points a game, and between them they had 49. Michael Gray at 29 was 10 of 11 from the floor, 6 of 7 from threes, and Devine played really well. And then the kid off the bench from Iceland, he scored 18 points coming off the bench. So they had 3 players just step forward and really gave them a lot offensively for them. Scored from the perimeter, scored from the free throw line. And it's tough to, maybe our defense wasn't quite as good as it usually is on the 3-point range, but still they were knocking them down. I think they were 8 of 12 at half against us, and it just snowballed the second half. And it was hard for me because of the fact that we worked so hard to get to this point, be first place in the conference, and also we worked so hard to get the crowd like that. We had just a tremendous crowd on Saturday, and I think it was the second most we've had for the year. And I was just disappointed in the performance of our players. And we'll see. This week's like a gut check kind of week. We have to go on the road now for 4 straight games. We'll see how our kids respond.
What effect do you think that's going to have on the rankings, both in the region and in the nation?
Well, last week we were 2nd in the region to Wesleyan, and we were 11th in the country, and Wesleyan was 8th in the country. We won 2 of our 3 games. Our only loss to the 8th-ranked team in the nation and the team above us in the rankings. I'm sure we'll go down in the national rankings. I assume we're going to stay in the top 20, losing only to the 8th-ranked team. In the region, we'll be in the top 4, but it's the polls are so finicky right now. It's the Wayne State's the other team that's in the regional. They have 4 losses. I believe we have 4 losses. Ashland has, correct me if I'm wrong, do they have 4?
I think so.
Yeah, they have 2 in the conference,
2 in the league,
conference.
4 overall.
and Kentucky Wesleyan has 5. So we're all right there as far as losses are concerned. We've beaten Ashland. We don't play Wayne State, and we've lost to Wesleyan. Ashland split with Wesleyan, lost to us, and lost to Wayne State. So who's to figure it? You always want to stay in the top 4 in the region. That's the most important thing because the 4 top teams in the region go to the NCAA tournament. It's nice to stay in the top 20 because it just gives more fuel to the fire later on. But with 4 weeks left and 8 games, there's a lot of basketball to be played. We have 7 conference games, and if we take care of business in these 7 games and the one non-conference game at Indiana Tech, we'll be in good shape come March.
Okay, now Thursday you go down to Frankfort to play Kentucky State. That's the team that had, prior to the Wesleyan game, had given IPFW its only home court loss, last second 99-98 game. What do you expect to see on Thursday?
Well, at that game, too, we had 5 kids that were suffering from the flu. We were 9 of 19 for the free throw line. They shot 64% from the floor for the game. We had a couple calls not go our way at the end of the game, and they were able to beat us by a whole 1 point. And like you said, gave us our only home court loss. I hope that we avenge the loss, obviously, but Kentucky State has everything to play for also. They have 4 losses in the league, so another loss in the league, and they're basically going to be out of it. We have 3 losses in the league. As long as we keep winning, if we win these 2 games this week, we're still in second place. Nobody's going to move up on us. And then we have to go to Ashland next week. Ashland has 2 losses. We have 3. Kentucky Wesleyan and Kentucky State have 4. So Thursday's a must-win for us. We have to win Thursday because we have to give Kentucky State another loss and keep us in 3rd place. They're going to be all fired up, obviously, playing at home, and it's a must-win for them and a must-win for us. So we expect a war when we go down there. Being on the road doesn't really affect us that much, I don't think, because our kids have seen all in the 5 years I've been here, we have played well on the road. And we beat Kentucky State 2 years ago down at their place after they beat us at home. So we're looking for continuation of that kind of system.
Okay. Now Saturday you play Bellarmine, a team that was ranked at the beginning of the season. They've kind of fallen on hard times lately, but they're still a tough team, especially in their building.
Sure.
They've got the big 7-foot kid, Sherfranz, against us earlier. He was, I think he had 22 points, didn't miss a shot from the floor. What do you expect out of Bellarmine?
Well, Bellarmine's a funny situation with Bellarmine because of the fact that in preseason poll they were ranked 2nd in the nation by Sports Illustrated. And all the polls, the publications came out, they're all in the top 20, some in the top 10. And preseason poll by the coaches, they're picked 2nd. They have tremendous talent back from last year, and I think they were 24-6 last year, something like that. They went to the NCAA tournament, and Joe does a great job with his kids down there. They have 3 starters back, and their top reserve back from last year. And here they are, 5-5, I think, in the conference, and 12-8 overall. And nobody would figure that Bellarmine would be in that situation right now. So they're either going to play their hearts out or they're just going to go through the motions because of the fact that they might not be in the race anymore. If Ashland beats them on Thursday, their kids, who knows how their kids are going to react. If Ashland beats them, they're our traveling partner, and play them on Thursday, and if they're 12-9 and 5-6, they could not be. They might not play as hard as if they were playing for the conference championship. But kids are funny. Who knows how they're going to play, and who knows how our kids are going to react. If we have an emotional win on Thursday, who knows what our emotional batteries are going to be like on Saturday. I hope our players realize how important these 2 games are, and they're must-win situations. And we'll see if we come back from Saturday's game. The practices were just addressing the fact that it's behind us, and we have to get going and not let a loss a week ago affect what's going to happen this week. And of our 4 losses, we lost to 1 team twice, and the other 2 at the buzzer by 1 point. So, being 16-4 and 8-3 in the league right now, we've never been in a situation where we're 2nd place in the conference, top 20 in the nation, and 16-4 going into the last 4 weeks of the season. So we're still in pretty good shape right now.
Okay. One new face we've been seeing more of lately has been Lan Bullard. As a sophomore, sat out the last couple of years. We're going to get a look at Lan pretty soon, but here he is. This is Saturday night against Wesleyan. And I mean, his last 3 games, he's had I think 28 points in 28 minutes. What are the reasons for him?
He played very well against University of Indianapolis. He's one of those kids that's been a little bit inconsistent for us defensively, and that's been a reason why he hasn't played as many minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Some games he plays a few minutes, some games he plays a handful, sometimes he doesn't play at all. Depends how he's playing that week in practice in the situation. He's been caught up in the numbers game. We have we play 2 wings at a time, point guard and 2 wing perimeter people, and the 4 people we've been playing there are seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been playing behind them, and again, like you said, he's a sophomore, and he's learning. The good thing about Land is he's got a good attitude. In practice, he never mopes or pouts if he doesn't play in a game. He comes to practice, he works hard, he listens, we work with him every day, and all of a sudden he's giving us a spark. He's coming in defensive rebounding, he's taking good shots. Against Southern Indiana, he had a dunk off 2 feet, outside the lane, jumping in the lane. And so we've been very pleased with his efforts, and he's going to make mistakes, but everybody's going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
We're just happy that he's kept his enthusiasm and is coming in and contributing, especially now. It's a nice time for a sophomore to step forward and get some minutes now. If he can give us 5 or 10 minutes a game in the last 8 games and do the things he did this past week, we'll be very happy with that.
What are some of the strengths of his game, both offensively and defensively?
Well, he's a very good athlete. He's quick. He jumps very well. He's got a pretty good touch. He's understanding a good shot and a bad shot. Sitting out 2 years really hurts you in a while because it takes a long time to get back to the team concept. It's easy to go and play pickup basketball for 2 years and stay physically in shape for 2 years, but to the habits that you can form by not being in organized basketball for 2 years could be a detriment. And I'm not saying it was with Lance. It's just taking him a while to get back to the system that he played in 2 years ago for us here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Andy, I'd like to wish the team good luck again this week. A couple of tough road games coming up. And we'll be back in a minute with IPFW women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelder.
Here's an IPFW sports break. I'm Alan Banks. This weekend wasn't a very nice one for Andy Piazza's IPFW men's basketball team. On Saturday, a loss dropped them to 2nd in Great Lakes Valley Conference standings. The Dons lost 107-91 against conference rival Kentucky Wesleyan at the Multipurpose Center. This weekend's loss places the Mastodons 1 game behind first place Ashland. Earlier in the week, the Dons came away with a pair of wins. On Tuesday, Eric Vaughn set a school record with 9 3-pointers in a surprisingly close 102-98 win over Goshen College. On Thursday, Sean Gibson scored 27 points to lead the Dons past Southern Indiana University, 97-78. This week, the Mastodons hit the road to take on GLVC foes Kentucky State on Thursday and Bellarmine on Saturday. The Lady Dons didn't fare much better when they took on Kentucky Wesleyan Saturday. Despite this last-second effort by IPFW's Tina Manier, Kentucky Wesleyan still pulled the game out 69-68. Earlier in the week, IPFW blew out Southern Indiana by the score of 92-64. Lisa Miller led all scorers with 32 points in that contest. The Lady Dons travel with the men's team to Kentucky State and Bellarmine this week. The 5th-ranked IPFW men's volleyball team find themselves headed to the sunny West Coast to take on the nation's best in the A6 Grand Prix tournament in San Diego this weekend. 7 other top 20 schools are competing in the tournament, including number 1 Long Beach State University. Arnie Ball's Volley Dons currently sport a record of 6-2, the best start in the program's 12-year history. This has been an IPFW Sports Break. I'm Alan Bangs. Now back to the show.
Thank you, Alan. And with me now is IPFW head women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelder. Eileen, your team had a rough week. You started out with a win over Southern Indiana, then lost to Wesleyan, both games at home. The Southern Indiana game, it was close very early. As a matter of fact, the second half, I think you were only up by 2 points, and then eventually pulled away for a fairly easy win.
Well, I'd have to say that the first half was a very physical half. They managed to stay with us, and I give them credit for just working real hard. They were very intense and took us out of our offense first half. We didn't get to go to the free throw line as often as we would have liked to first half, and free throws are a major part of our game, and if we don't get the breaks or get the calls, it does hurt us. Second half, we increased our intensity a little bit, looked to drive the hole a little bit more since they were extending our offense, and were able to draw the fouls, and we ended up shooting 50 free throws for the evening, and helped us win soundly.
Now in the first half, shooting by both teams was rather poor. IPFW shot 31%. He came out in the second half and shot 54%. What accounted for that?
Well, once again, the last 3 games we have been shooting poorly first half. We're first in the nation at 51%, and it's really disappointing to see ourselves come out and shoot 31%, 40% at Northern Kentucky, and then second half to turn things around and shoot in the 50s. I can only attribute some of that to the fact that it was a very physical game first half. We weren't getting the calls. Things were just left go, and second half they called a closer, tighter game, and we got to go to the free throw line.
Okay. Now you mentioned, I believe you shot, almost 30, 40 free throws in the game. We're going to get a look at one here in a minute. Lisa Miller set the NCAA Division II career record with her 631st free throw. I know we talked about this before, but what is it about her game that puts her to line so often?
I think the main reason Lisa goes to line as much as she does, first of all, she drives to the hole. She goes up against the big people, and she has good vertical, for someone her size at 5'9". Another thing that Lisa does is, as far as her shot goes, is she does have a little double pump move that she uses. Mm-hmm. And that helps her draw the foul.
Here's the record-setting free throw right there.
Yeah, there it is. She was 14 of 18 for the evening from the free throw line. Mm-hmm. But she's able to draw the fouls. She's shooting a lot of them, and a large part of it is because of the double pump shot she takes inside and really throws the taller inside defenders off, and she draws the foul.
Okay. Now Saturday night then, we suffered a tough loss to Kentucky Wesleyan, a team that you'd beaten, I believe, by 12 points at their place about a month ago. What happened in that game? And that game was tight throughout.
Well, again, a poor first half from the field, and it was very physical. Teams have caught on that, we don't handle pressure real well, and they extend our offense a little bit. I talked to the team about this a great deal, and looking at the films. We really did not execute our offense well at all. We were taking, very low percentage shots, shooting from the perimeter for a second pass, and that's something that we don't look to do. We needed to work the ball inside, which we were able to do second half. I can't say that our defense put forth the best effort. Our intensity just wasn't there. And probably more than anything else, 2 things may attribute to our loss. Number one, rebounding. Kentucky Wesleyan is second in the conference in rebounding, and they just got after the boards and got the putbacks. We got them to miss 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shots in a row, but yet they kept getting the rebound and putting it back up and just stuck with it until they're able to score. And had we stopped that, I think it would have helped us out an awful lot. We didn't hit the offensive boards. We were getting 1 shot, sometimes 2. And then on top of all of that, we just had some critical moments where we had unforced turnovers, especially at the end of the game. We had a few unforced turnovers that really hurt us. And we still managed to come back, and Jamie LaRue hit her free throws with just a minute to go, or even less than that. And I give her credit for that, coming in as a freshman and hitting 2 crucial free throws, and especially when her free throw percentage hasn't been that good. And we just weren't able to get the ball to fall at the end. Had Tina Manier's shot gone in, we'd all be happy when the buzzer sounded, but it didn't work out that way.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a look at that in just a second here, the last shot. You mentioned, here we're going to set up the play now. Kentucky Wesleyan misses the front end. There's just 7 seconds left.
It all worked out the way he wanted it to. They missed the free throw. She comes down and quite an off-balance shot. She claims that 2 girls grabbed her arm, but, at the end like that, in the heat of things, the officials just aren't going to give you that call.
Now, right before that, you said earlier, Jamie LaRue came in, a freshman, hit 2 free throws, which closed the game to within 1. She had just come into the game about 90 seconds before that. How tough is that to come in the game cold? I mean, that was her first appearance in the game, to come in cold like that and contribute not only with 2 crucial free throws, but just to come in and play.
I give Jamie a lot of credit for that, and that's something I really like about her. She has a real promising future here at IPFW. She's a real gamer. She can come in off the bench, and she'll do exactly what I ask her to do, and she's very, very coachable. I put her in for a defensive spark. We wanted to get some full court man-to-man action going because we needed the basketball, and we did set up a face guard right after she made her free throws. And like I mentioned earlier, she's not our best from the line, but she got in there, and we always talk about getting the job done when it's needed, and she was able to do that for us. And coming in off the bench as cold as she was, it's never been a problem for her. You know, every time I send her in, she's ready to play.
Okay, now another thing you mentioned earlier, I know the team you've led the nation in both field goal shooting and free throw shooting at different points during the year. But lately, I think 3 of the last 4 games, teams shot less than 50% from the floor, less than 70% from the line. Is there any reason for that, and do you have any special plans to try to correct this?
We
Or
always
is it
have
just
reasons.
one of those things you go through during the year?
We always have reasons for things. I think our poor field goal percentage, you know, they all came in the first half. In the second half, we were able to go above our average. I would have to say 2 things. Number one, because the game is physical as it was, and we just weren't getting the calls. Secondly, we just were not patient on offense and did not work the basketball to get the higher percentage shots. And we did that, you know, better second half. Plus, we got the calls second half, and I think that helps out a great deal. From the free throw line, I don't know, you know, what our problem has been. I know that the team is experiencing a little bit of pressure. You know, people are starting to talk about the NC2A tournament, and, you know, we're ranked 4th in the region. We have a good chance of perhaps going, and we don't know how that's going to end up. So, you know, we just need to focus on one game at a time and not allow this pressure to bother us. And if it happens, it happens.
Now, what effect do you think this loss, Saturday's loss, might have on the rankings, both in the region and in the nation, and as far as the postseason hunt is concerned? Or is it hard to say, judging on the way the poll's been going in the last few weeks?
It's very difficult to say, and especially being a new coach, you know, at this level in this conference, it's hard for me to predict what might happen. So far, in my observation, you know, the rankings have been very unstable. You know, you can beat a team that's maybe just receiving votes or ranked 20th as we were, and pop into the top 13, 14, having not even been ranked prior to that. So it's difficult to predict. You know, one loss could knock you out for good. It all depends, and hopefully they'll take a real close look at the teams that we have defeated and the teams that we've played fairly well against. And what we need to do now is take care of business with the rest of the conference especially St. Joe and Northern Kentucky, because they are ranked, and if we can fare well against them, I think we'll be recognized once again.
Okay, now taking a look at this week coming up, we go down to Frankfort on Thursday to play Kentucky State, a team that we hammered earlier in the year by about 60 points, and then Saturday have to go down to Bellarmine. And I know it's the first time that you'll be down in Bellarmine. I know it's always a tough place to play. Any comments on this week's game, starting with Thursday?
Well, with Thursday, hopefully the team will be anxious to get things put back together after our loss against Kentucky Wesleyan, and that's something we're going to focus on. We plan on using a lot of people. We plan on playing with a great deal of intensity. That's our game plan. We hope that will carry over then for our Bellarmine game on Saturday. You know, it is a very important game. The kids have defeated Bellarmine at Bellarmine before, so they know that it can happen. And we'll just need to get ourselves ready for that. You know, we need to prepare ourselves for a very intense game. They're going to be after us just as much as we're going to be after them. And they have a very good perimeter game, and that's something we're going to have to take better care of, as well as the inside game. They're very well balanced.
Now they're without their All-American O'Bannon, the player that was hurt in our gym. Unfortunately, is out for the year. What impact does that have on their team? Obviously, it's a great player out of the lineup, but as far as their offense and their defense is concerned.
Well, it's taken a great deal out of their offense. However, they have 2 girls that can come in, and they do a real good job with their post-isolation. You know, they spread the offense out, and they do it very well because of the fact that they have 2 great perimeter shooters, one that leads the conference in three-point shooting, a freshman by the name of Bronner. And, you know, you've got to respect that, and that opens up the inside for them. And like I said, they work real well with their post players, and they have 2 people that have come in and filled the shoes that needed to be filled with the loss of O'Bannon. Okay.
What are some of the keys, would you say, to your success on the road? And the team's 6-3 overall. 2 of those losses came very early in the year. You're 3-1 in league games on the road. What do you think are some of the keys, not only to your team, for your team this year, but just in general, as far as keys to winning on the road?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. I don't know at all. In Northern Kentucky, we had very few fans there as far as the women's games goes, and we didn't feel like maybe we had that support. Maybe felt a little lonely out there. I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. we talk about the schools that we're going to visit, and sometimes the kids have comments about that's a hard gym to play in. You know, Kentucky Wesleyan was one that everyone talked about being a tough gym to play in, and we went down there and took care of business, and you would have thought that coming back to our home court we could have, you know, beaten them again. We always say that teams play their best in our gym. For some unknown reason, they shoot by far, looking back over the conference schools, their shooting percentages have been well above their average in our gym. And when we go on the road, we just try to prepare ourselves and go through the same routine every time and make sure that everyone is well rested and just go out there and get the job done. We really don't focus on the facilities itself or the fans and that sort of thing. Try to just block that out.
Now you mentioned getting the players well rested. You've got 4 players, 4 of your 5 starters are averaging 30 or 29 or more minutes per game. Several of the players have played the full 40 minutes lately. What are some of the advantages and the disadvantages of that?
Well, advantage of playing the same people for a longer period of time, number one, they begin to learn all the tendencies of the opponent, you know, out on the floor, and what they're able to get, you know, offensively and what they're doing to us defensively. And, you know, together as a team, they can start to discuss things by themselves, you know, in addition to what I'm going to tell them, to defend things and to attack things offensively. And things start to gel a little bit better for you, especially with our presses that we use. You know, our starting 5 practices the press quite a bit together, and they learn each other's tendencies as well, and they know when they can count on someone being in a certain spot at a certain time and when they can cheat off a little bit and maybe shoot the gap and get the steal. And, you know, that is an advantage. Disadvantage, you know, they become fatigued. That is something that I think we need, you know, we're going to focus on Thursday, Kentucky State, and hopefully it'll carry over to Bellarmine and using more people. I'd like to have used Michelle Connolly a little bit for us, and, you know, she's a very good post-defensive player for us, which we needed. And she's had a groin injury for over a month now, and we're hoping that, and she has been cleared by the doctors, and we're hoping that she'll be back for us. So we really have been down to 11 people on the roster, and at times we've used 10, maybe 9 in different games, but that's something we hope to use a few more people, and that might help us out.
All right, well, I'd like to wish luck to the team. I'd like to remind fans that IPFW, both men's and women's teams, will be out of town for a couple of weeks. They'll be back in town on Thursday, February 27th. Hello and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. With me this week is IPFW Assistant Men's Basketball Coach Dick Dumanian. Dick, welcome to the show again.
Thanks, Dave.
I'd like to start out talking a little bit about last week's games. You had a big win over Kentucky State, a team that beat IPFW in Fort Wayne a couple of weeks ago, a team that was ranked high in the region, in the conference. You guys went down there with, I think, an 8 to 9 point win.
Right.
What happened in that ball game?
It was a a nice win for us, as you said. We changed our style a little bit for the game. Kentucky State's very athletic, and they like to play run and gun. And so we didn't press as much as we normally do. We didn't press for all 40 minutes like we normally do. And seemed to slow them down a little bit. We'd throw it on every once in a while. We did a lot of straight half-court defense, a little trapping half-court, and that seemed to throw them off a little bit. We played really well, hit the big baskets when we had to. Sean Gibson had a really good game. Dwayne Shears, who's been playing really well for us, had another good game. Eric Vaughn came off the bench and hit some big baskets, so
is there
good
anything,
effort.
Anything Kentucky State did the first game that they didn't do the second game, or that something they did that you were able to stop? Last
They're more a transition kind of team, and so by not pressing as much, we kind of slowed them down. They weren't able to get those easy transition baskets. They're more a team, they want to pass it once, and boom, that guy's looking to shoot it. And when you play half-court defense, they've got to work the ball a little bit more, which isn't their style. So they had to be a little more patient. They tend to throw the ball away, take shots. They get a little frustrated or want to hurry things up, and take shots that they don't normally take. So,
what was this is the first time you've been down to Kentucky State since you've been here? How would you compare their gym and just playing at Kentucky State as opposed to playing at some of the other conference schools?
It's a beautiful facility. It's Frankfurt is the state capital, and it's a really nice facility. Probably the nicest one in the conference as far as being newer and big and well kept and all that kind of stuff.
What was the crowd like down there?
Not real good. The place holds, I think, 7,000 people, something like that, and we had maybe 1,000 people there. So.
Okay, then Saturday, you guys went down to Bellarmine, another team that we defeated in Fort Wayne fairly handily last time we played them. Went down there, had a 3-point loss. What were some of the things that happened that night?
Well, Bellarmine played terrific. They're on a roll. They beat Ashland Thursday night, and then they got us Saturday. And they're more a half-court kind of team. We tried to press them more. They did a real good job against our press. They were down to 7 guys. Normally they play 8 people. They lost a starter. 5 minutes into the Ashland game, he tore up his knee. Hartledge, 6'9" kid that plays the big forward for him. And they did a really good job. They just executed. First half was kind of ugly. They only had 5 points, I think, after 10 or 11 minutes of play. But then they came on strong in the second half. Everybody contributed. They picked up their defense a little bit. We made a lot of turnovers, a lot of unforced turnovers, and just kind of fell apart. They shot a lot more free throws than we did, but I think that happens to us a lot. We're a little bit more physical, and there at the end of the game, we were fouling them to stop the clock and try to get the ball back. So.
Now, you mentioned the free throws. I know that's something that's happened in a lot of games, and a lot of times you look at the box score and see the other team shooting 30 or 40 free throws, and we're shooting 15, and people say, hey, what's going on here? But I think it's you alluded to the fact that with your style of play that's going to happen. Why is that?
Well, you'd hope that it wouldn't happen. I think it happens when you're pressing like that as much as we do, and the game gets going up and down like that. You have more tendency to put defensive players in bad position where they might have to reach, or it's easier for them to reach than move their feet, and you get a lot of situations maybe more than you would normally in a half-court game where it's going to be 2-on-1 or 3-on-2, and so people foul instead of giving up the easy basket, which is part of our style, and so it just works out that way. And on the other end, we have a pretty good perimeter shooting team, and so we take a little more shots outside probably than most teams or a lot of teams. When you bang it inside more, you're going to get more free throws. And we certainly could do that, but we also have with our big guys, they do a really good job inside. But we shoot a lot outside too, so that kind of cuts down on your opportunities to get fouled.
Sure. Okay, now Saturday night, you guys have probably the game in the conference this week, IPFW at Ashland. Both teams, 2 of the teams in a 3-way tie for first. Kentucky Wesleyan, the other team, both all 3 9-4 in the league. Now Ashland came up here, I think on January 25th. IPFW came out of there with, I think, a 14-point win, a game a little easier win than most people thought. What do you expect to see on Saturday?
A totally different team than it was up here. Ashland's a terrible road team. I think they're 5-6 on the season on the road, and I believe they have a 30-some game winning streak at home.
Longest home court winning streak in the league.
Right. So they're tough at home. It's a totally different team, and I imagine it'll be the same kind of game. Both teams are going to press the whole time. It'll be up and down. There'll be a lot of points scored, and hopefully it'll be Same kind of outcome as last time, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Now, I think that, I'm not sure of this, but I remember Andy saying the other day, I don't think that IPFW has won as long as at Ashland while Andy's been the coach. I don't know, a lot of these guys have been around for a couple of years. Is that say kind of like a mental block, kind of like with never beaten Kentucky Wesleyan? Is it something that's in the back of their minds? Or?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It shouldn't be. You know, Coach Piazza, this is his 5th year here. We don't have anybody that's been here. This will be their 3rd time going there. So they don't, you know, if we've never won there for I don't know how many years, that doesn't matter because we've only been here. You know, Sean Gibson and those guys have only been here. This will be their 3rd trip only. So, and we're a lot different team than we were last year or when they were freshmen. So hopefully that won't weigh on their minds. And we know we can beat them because we beat them pretty handily here. So hopefully that'll carry over. We're a pretty good road team. We don't seem to mind too much on the road. So hopefully that'll...
You've also had some wins at some notoriously difficult places to win, like Gannon.
Right.
And some places like that. So, okay. Now, with there's some interesting scores in the league this week. You know, Ashland split a couple of games. They had a chance to take sole possession of first place, and they ended up losing to Kentucky State just 2 days after IPFW defeated Kentucky State. Wesleyan won both their games. How do you see the regional rankings coming out this week?
That's a good question. I think Wesleyan's probably going to be #1 in the region. They have been for a while here, and I'm sure they'll stay there. I don't see why they wouldn't, especially now that they're tied for first place in the conference.
Right.
After that, it's going to be a toss-up. I'd imagine Wayne State from Michigan, they're first place in the conference up there, and they'll be right there somewhere. They have a real good overall record, and a couple games in first, I believe, in their conference. And then it'll probably be us and Ashland, seeing that we've been in the rankings and we're still tied for first, even though we lost. After that, I don't know. You know, Bellarmine had a great week. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to get them in the regional rankings. I'm sure they'll get some votes. Anybody else, I can't really see anybody else moving in from our conference other than Bellarmine maybe. So I think it'll probably be the same 4 teams. Probably get shuffled though, as opposed to Wayne State will probably move up and us and Ashland will both move down.
Now, who are some of the teams left on your schedule that are a little bit scary? And like St. Joe is one that leaps to mind. I know they're a team that we had to struggle to beat by 4 at home, and they've won some big games. Mathematically, they could be tied for first place at the end of this week if they can pull off a big win at Wesleyan.
Right. They're only a game out of first. There's 3 teams tied for. Well, I guess technically they're tied for 4th place, but they're only 1 game behind 3 of us that are in first. That could end up being a very, very big game. They have Kentucky Wesleyan tonight, or I'm sorry, tomorrow night, Thursday night, and that'll be a big game in the conference too. And if St. Joe wins a couple of these games, they're going to be right there, and that will be a big game. I believe that's March 5th. That Thursday we play St. Joe. That'll be a big one for us. Northern Kentucky's only 2 games back. If they win this weekend, they sweep this weekend, they come into town next weekend with Indy, and that'll be a big game for them. So. They could all, potentially, they're all big games, especially with the standings being as tight as they are. We can't afford really to lose any more games in the conference if we want to be conference champions.
Now, you've been in college basketball for several years, some different areas. Have you ever seen a conference race as tight as this late into the season with this many teams involved?
No, I don't think I have. It's pretty amazing, especially, you know, a week ago, nobody would have guessed it would have been this tight because Ashland was a game up on everybody, or on us, I should say, and we were a game ahead of everybody else, and that's just the way the ball bounces, I guess. Now, I've never been in a conference race like this where there's 6 teams that are within 1 game, and then Northern's hanging around with only 2 games back. So.
Okay. Now, with just a couple of weeks left in the season, you've got 4 seniors on the team: Clarence Rich, Kevin Shank, Dwayne Shears, and Eric Vaughn. How are they looking at things going into the stretch? And are they contributing any kind of leadership, either on or off the floor, having been through this before?
Well, see, that's they've been through a number of seasons before, but they've never been through a conference race like this before. Not at the college Division II level. Eric's team did really well in junior college. Dwayne's team did very well in junior college. They came from good high school programs and such, but they've never been in a race while they've been here at IPFW. So it's new for them. Andy or myself have never been in a race while we've been here at IPFW. We've always been the team that's in the middle of the pack, trying to get up into 2nd or 3rd.
Sure. Acting as a spoiler.
So, yeah, Dwayne's really come on the last 3 weeks or so, 6 or 7 games. He's really come on and been playing really well for us. He didn't score too many on Saturday, but he did a lot of other really nice things. He played pretty good defense. He had a couple really nice assists, and so we're really happy with the way he's been playing. Clarence is always there. He does a great job on defense. He's tough. He doesn't get rattled too often, so you can count on him. Eric's been kind of up and down, but he knows what it's all about. He's kind of sick right now. I don't know how he's going to be for Saturday. Should be all right. And then Kevin Shank, he's sort of like Clarence in that, we can count on him to go in, and, he's going to be, give it his all for however long he's in there.
Well, he's one of the players that does a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet. I mean, he's diving all over the floor. He's getting the big rebound when you need it. Doesn't play a lot of minutes, but
right. Works hard. He goes in there and he hustles, makes some things happen. He's going to make a nice pass here, or he'll be the guy that ducks in behind the defense and gets an easy layup and that kind of thing. So.
Okay. Well, Dick, good luck to the team this week. I know it's a big game. Everyone in the league is looking forward to the outcome of the game, and we hope it works out for you.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll be back after a break with IPFW women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelter.
Here's a Channel 6 Sports Minute. I'm Alan Bangs. Despite splitting their 2 games last week, the IPFW men's basketball team stayed on pace with Kentucky Wesleyan and Ashland at the top of the Great Lakes Valley Conference. With a conference record of 9-4, the Dons are tied for first in their race for a conference championship. In a win at Kentucky State last Thursday, junior Sean Gibson became IPFW's all-time rebounding leader. Gibson heads into this week with 622 boards. Jim Moreland held the previous mark with 606. The Mastodons rounded out last week with a loss Saturday at Bellarmine College. IPFW has a big game on Saturday. They'll be traveling to Ashland University, a team they currently share first place with. The women's basketball team also split their games last week. With a conference record of 9-4, they are currently in a tie for 4th place in the GLVC. Thursday, the Lady Dons travel to Hillsdale College. Saturday, they'll head to Ashland. The 8th-ranked IPFW Volley Dons are at home this weekend to open up the Midwest Intercollegiate Volleyball Association season. On Friday, Wisconsin-Milwaukee comes into town. Action gets underway at 7:30 p.m. Another big match on Saturday. This time it's MIVA rival Ohio State. That match also gets underway at 7:30 p.m. There's another opportunity to catch the Volley Dons at the Multipurpose Center on Sunday. This time Buffalo comes in for an exhibition match. That match will start at 3 p.m. Last weekend, the Volley Dons traveled to California and participated in the ASICS Grand Prix tournament. They recorded wins over UC Santa Barbara, Loyola Marymount, and Hawaii. They dropped matches to host San Diego State and number 1 ranked Long Beach State. The 10-5 Volley Dons are probably relieved to return home. They've played 12 of their first 15 matches on the road. In those 3 matches they have played at home, they have a record of 3-0. For Channel 6 Sports, I'm Alan Bangs.
Thanks, Alan. Welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm here now with IPFW women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelter. Eileen, last week, kind of a tough week. You started out with an easy win at Kentucky State and then had to go down to Bellarmine, team that is always a tough team, especially at their place, and team we defeated at the last second in our building. Starting out with the Kentucky State game, and that game, like I said, it was pretty much of a blowout. We won by like 62 points. How do you get the team prepared for a game like that, especially when they had beaten them soundly earlier in the year?
Well, a couple of things in approaching that game. First of all, we look at it as an opportunity that perhaps everyone will get a chance to play. And you never want to overlook a team. We approach every game, every team quite seriously. We prepare for Kentucky State just like any other team. And we hope that things, go our way when we get out there. You never know on any given night. Things may not go your way. Bellarmine is a perfect example. You may not be able to put the ball in the hole. And, we came out Kentucky State well prepared, and we did some things in the Kentucky State game that prepared us for the Bellarmine game. Some of the game plan that we wanted to use, and especially our defenses that we wanted to experiment with a little bit. But like I said, it's a good opportunity for everyone to get to play and to get the kids pumped up for that. You just tell them, look, we want everyone to play. We want you all to go out there and give 100% on defense. We don't want any complacency. We want good execution. And games like that's a perfect opportunity to prepare your younger kids and get them some experience and to coach them to correct mistakes and just look for better execution in everything that we do, so that when we have a game like Bellarmine, we're a little bit more prepared, maybe a little more confident.
Who are some of the players that that came off the bench that had a good game against Kentucky State? Players that don't normally see a lot of action.
Well, we had a lot of people contributing. Amy Perkins came in and had 6 assists and did a real good job running the offense for us and getting the break going for us. Kim Recker had quite a few rebounds and was able to put a few back in on the offensive end. She did real well for us. Dawn Dressler is one who's coming off the bench over the past few games and has been doing very well. She's shooting 4 or 5 in the Kentucky State game, shooting real well from the line, and more important than anything else, she's getting the rebounds for us. She's getting the backside rebound on both ends of the court, and that's something that I really stress and look for. And she's a real heady player. You know, she'll get after it on defense, and we generally assign her position to their better outside shooter, and she's done a good job with that also.
Now, she's been playing, like you said, quite a bit more minutes last few games. Do you expect that to continue, to have her see even more playing time?
At this point, that's part of my plan. You know, Dawn has been proving herself over the last few games, and I do look for her to get more minutes on the court because she is helping us out a great deal in a lot of areas.
Okay, then Saturday night, guys had to go down to Bellarmine. I know, like I said, always a difficult place to play. What happened in that game or how would you compare that game to the first time we played them in our place?
First of all, I'd have to say our shooting percentage. When you shoot the ball 21 more times than your opponent, you'd expect it perhaps to be a closer ball game and perhaps even to win it by 10 or 15. We got excellent shots. We got some high percentage shots in the paint. You know, 21 more attempts than they did, but we just could not get the ball to fall in the hole. We shot an unbelievable 36% from the field, and we're averaging 51%. And, you know, it's hard to, how do you coach that? You call a timeout and you say, you know, keep taking the good shots and let's just hope that they fall. You know, it was very physical. A lot of our shots were short. They were getting a piece of our shot or we were getting the foul and it wasn't being called. And that hurt us a great deal. Another thing, too, from the free throw line, and that is something that, you know, there really is no excuse for because you're at the line by yourself, no defense on you. And we shot very poorly from the free throw line, and that really is one of our strengths also. So if you look at our 2 strengths, you know, we're the best shooting team in the conference, field goal percentage and free throw percentage. Yet that night we couldn't get either one to go for us. You know, and Bellarmine had an exceptional game, shooting 50% from the field.
I know you talked about your strengths before. I know one of the areas you've always looked to improve this year is offensive rebounding. And against Bellarmine, you had 23 offensive rebounds, that's an unbelievable total for a team that crashes the offensive boards. But for a team that had been struggling a little bit, that was obviously a season high. What happened there? Well,
that was, you know, we were really fired up to win this game. And that was something that we really stressed at practice, that we need to do a better job of getting on the offensive boards. We watched the film from last game with them, and even though we won, we realized that we were only getting one shot many times. And too often, they were getting the second and third shot, and we still won. So we thought, well, if we can go out there and take away, you know, their second or third shot, and if we can get more shots, you know, we're going to win the basketball game. We got out there and crashed the offensive boards like we never have before, and we were getting second and third and fourth shots in the paint. They weren't falling, but we weren't getting the foul called either, and that was kind of disappointing for us, but that's the way the ball game went.
Okay, now this Saturday, well, you have a non-conference game Thursday against Hillsdale, and then Saturday, back in GLVC action against Ashland. That's another team that we played earlier in the year and won. It was a difficult ball game, but ended up winning fairly handily. What do you look for Saturday?
I look for a very aggressive basketball game. In this conference, it's becoming more and more physical. You really have to focus on taking care of the basketball. It's difficult at times to run your offense because the pressure is so great. I really hope that we can get out and pressure them quite a bit, and even some full court and half court presses. The bottom line is we have to run our offense better. We need better execution. We need to force our opponent to, you know, play a little defense a little longer, you know, draw a few fouls and look for some better shots. They're a well-balanced team. 2 or 3 of their players are ranked in the top 10 in the conference in block shots. So they have a good, strong inside game, some good height. Some kids are going to post up hard on you, and they also have some good outside shooters. So, you know, they're well-balanced, and on their home court, you know, the conference game, they're going to be fired up to play us.
Now, how do you think the results from this weekend, not just our scores, but some of the other scores in the league, affect the conference race and possibly the postseason hunt?
Well, it's really interesting at this point because there is so much parity. You have St. Joseph's, who's above everyone else, with just the one loss. And then you have Northern Kentucky, who started out slowly, but then kind of took second place by themselves. And then they had a couple of, surprises as far as upsets go. Indianapolis upset them at their place at Northern Kentucky. And then just this past weekend, Kentucky Wesleyan upsets Northern Kentucky, which was a surprise to everyone. And we lost to Kentucky Wesleyan, so they're kind of sneaking up into the picture. And then Bellarmine, we split with them, and then it seems that Northern Kentucky and Wesleyan are splitting with them also. So we're all right in there, right in second, third, fourth, and fifth spot. And it's going to be interesting to see at the end, how we all end up.
Now, what about Bellarmine as a team that, after they lost to IPFW, their All-American got hurt. O'Bannon, this player was All-American last year. She got hurt, and a lot of people kind of wrote them off. They lost to us, and I think they lost 2 of their next 3 games, and all of a sudden we're 7-3. They had been unbeaten. Now they're 19-3, and but they still, I know they, at least last week, they were not in the top 5 in the region. Does that have anything to do with their schedule, or people just forgotten about them?
Well, I have to give them a lot of credit for their conference play. Pre-conference, they did not have a very difficult schedule. But, now we're in conference play, they're just doing a very good job with what they have. And they're very well balanced. They have 2 people who can shoot the three-pointer from the outside, so you've got to extend your defense a little bit and get some pressure on them. And then they have 2 or 3 post players who just work real well together and do a great job of, pinning for the lobs and driving to the hole and hitting the boards. And they're a very physical basketball team, extremely physical. And Charlie Just does a good job with them. And even though they don't have, O'Bannon, they've really pulled together. Sometimes an injury like that with, one of your better players can, unite the team even stronger. And, you set even higher goals for yourself. You're kind of out to prove something, and they've handled it very well.
Okay. Now, getting away from IPFW basketball for a while, I know women's basketball's seen a big growth in popularity lately. I don't know, our crowds have increased. Crowds around the country have increased. The national media exposure has increased. The women's finals are televised. A lot of the ESPN and some of the regional cable networks are showing women's games now. Why do you think that is?
Well, I just think there's a greater interest overall, over the years, and women's basketball hasn't been around as far as organized basketball as it has been for the men, and we're becoming more and more talented. Over the years, the athletes are being coached by more competent coaches. People are taking a greater interest. We have more organizations now, like the AAU. It allows us to get involved in some very high-level competition during the summer. And the colleges, the high schools, are really making a commitment financially to the programs. And with all of that combined, the sport can't help but become better. And when it becomes better, it's more exciting to watch, and more people come out in the stands. And also, parents are getting more involved now. They're just as proud as their daughter out there as they are their son on the court. So I think
do you think that's a big part of it? I know it's more I don't know, I don't want to say acceptable, but more usual for a girl to get involved in sports, whereas 10, 15 years ago it was kind of odd for a girl to get involved in sports, whereas now it's not, nobody thinks twice about it.
I heard some high school girls talking not too long ago, and they mentioned that a few years back, if you were involved in athletics, you were a jock. And now it's the in thing. It used to be the cheerleading was what you got into, and now it's just the opposite. And I have a niece who's a cheerleader, and she tells me that cheerleading is not as in as being an athlete and being involved in a sport. And women play the game of basketball very delicate. People say it's much of a finesse game. I can't say it's delicate in our conference, but maybe that wasn't the proper word to use. We do play with a great deal of finesse. We don't play above the rim. We don't have the slamming and so forth. And it's a fast-paced game with a 30-second clock. But we have some outstanding shooters in the women's game. And if you've seen any Division I women's basketball, they can do some exciting things with the basketball, and in Division II as well. The talent has just escalated in what we're able to do on the court.
Okay, now, since you began coaching, you've been in some different regions of the country, but out west in Arizona, out east, a lot of time in the south, and then in this part of the country. How would you compare the just girls basketball in general, kind of the developmental phases of women's basketball as far as starting the kids early in different parts of the country? Is it stronger in different parts? Is there more emphasis in different parts?
I would say so. Indiana is by far the best basketball, all the way down to the elementary schools. Everyone in the country respects Indiana basketball. And that's very evident at all the summer tournaments and camps you go to. Coaches are always out there looking for the Indiana kids because they're so sound fundamentally. When I was out west, I'd have to say that even though California had a lot going for itself in Phoenix, in that area, there wasn't as much interest. Maybe because you were limited to the surrounding suburbs of Phoenix, and everything else is desert. But it was a little more difficult to get organized basketball going. The interest wasn't as great, and I would have to say that the fundamentals and the skill was not as good as what you'd see in the state of Indiana. On the East Coast, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, in New Jersey, in that area, there's a great deal of interest and a great deal of talent, probably very, very similar to here as it is here in Indiana.
Okay. Well, Eileen, good luck to the team this weekend. Thanks for being on the show once again. I'd like to remind fans, Coach's Corner can be seen every Wednesday night on College Cable Access Channel 6. Hello and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. With me now is IPFW head men's basketball coach Andy Piazza. Andy, the team had a rough week last week. Started out with a non-conference win over Indiana Tech, then went to Ashland on Saturday, lost a tough one, a battle for first place in the league, 122 to 93. What happened in that game?
Well, like you said, we had a non-conference win at Indiana Tech, and fortunately we were able to win. Because we had 3 days to get ready for Ashland, we gave the kids Wednesday off practice to give them mentally and physically a day off because it's end of February now, and the fact is it's hard to sustain 3 days of practice, intensity level for that. And we had short practices Thursday and Friday reviewed, and felt pretty good about Saturday going over to Ashland. Sure, Ashland has a 38 or 39 game home
longest
court
in the league.
Yeah, winning streak is what they have there. And they had almost 3,000 people there at the game. Great home court advantage for them. One of their players was suspended, and I don't know if that rallied the team or not. One of their starters and one of their leading scorers was suspended for an off-court incident. And in fact, their point guard wore his jersey, the suspended player's jersey. I don't know if in respect for him or whatever. I don't know what the situation was there. But we started out the game very well. We were up 16-6, and I think it was 30-21 at one time, fluctuating between a 6 and 10 point lead. And then a lot of things happened where we lost some patience on offense. We had some easy shots not fall. We got fouled, and some free throws didn't fall. In the meantime, they were scoring. They got red hot. They were hitting threes. All of a sudden, when they started scoring, we threw the ball away a couple times against their press. Their press got a lot better because of turnovers by us or our lack of patience at the offensive end. Then it started snowballing. And then we started hurrying a little bit, rushing our offense, trying to score too quickly, and that's counterproductive for us. And defensively, it seems like we hit a lull then because we were frustrated in the offensive end. Instead of gearing up on the defensive end, we got a little frustrated, and we were like thinking about how frustrated we were on the offensive end. And when you're thinking about what just happened the play before, defensively, you're always going to be a step slow in reacting, and that's what we were. And Ashland was on top of their game there for about a 5-minute period, and all of a sudden we're down 20, which can happen against an explosive team like that. At halftime, we addressed the issue where we do not need to get it all back at once. Let's just chip away. Let's cut the 20-point lead to 10 at the 10-minute mark. Let's not hurry our offense. Let's not panic on defense and gamble all the time and reach and get out of position or foul carelessly or unnecessarily. Let's not put them in the bonus situation too early. Let's make sure that we execute and take what they give us versus rushing down and hurrying a shot, because we don't have to get back in it right away. We've been in situations where we've been down 10, 11, 12 points with 10 minutes to go and have won the games. So it's like in the past we addressed those exact games where we were behind on the road against good teams late in the game and what we needed to do. And with a veteran team, you wouldn't be concerned about that. Very first play of the second half, we got the ball inside of one of our very good postmen who had a jump hook 5 feet away, it rattled the rim and came out. They went down, they scored. We came down, we had a wide open 3-point shot off of a double down to our post player. The ball was halfway down, rattled the rim 3-4 times, came out, they came down, bombed a 3. All of a sudden, that's a +5 for them, we're down 25. And it was a situation where for a while there, no matter how hard we tried, it seemed like everything went wrong. Kid would cut to the basket and we'd throw behind him. We think the kid was going to cut to the basket on a break, and we threw a skip pass to the corner, and it resulted in turnovers from lack of communication, and scoring opportunities were whittled away. We made some more careless passes against the press. We had to use a lot of our timeouts just to get the kids to calm down and get reorganized. The crowd was in it. Obviously, we couldn't take the crowd out of the game at that point. And then we had a snowball effect. A lot of our key players did not get the ball. Sean Gibson only had 3 shot attempts. One was a 3-point jump shot. One was a downhill tip in the first half. The other one was he took it to the basket off of a post move all by himself. So it was a situation where very unintelligently we didn't try to do the things that got us to 18 wins versus, sometimes you can say it's February, the other team's playing well, but I can accept losses when we're working as hard as we can and trying to do the things that we've been doing all year that have been successful. And we did neither one of those. And if you don't do those two things in an away game in front of 3,000 hostile fans, with the team you're tied with number 1 in the conference, it's very difficult to win, obviously. And it just snowballed, and the score was a lot worse than it looked.
Now, what effect do you think that game's going to have on the rankings this week? I know we're talking about that before we came on the air.
It's a very good question, Dave. The fact is, even though right now we do not control if we win the conference championship, we still have a viable shot at the NCAA tournament. They take 4 from 8 different regions. It really is a regional tournament that goes to the national is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's not the 32 best teams in the nation because of budgetary constraints and things like that. They don't move a lot of people around. Michigan's going to get the automatic bid out of their tournament. Right now, Wayne State is leading the conference up there by a game, and they have 2 on the road this week. Grand Valley has 2 on the road. They played last night. I don't even know how they did last night. They have 2 on the road, and they're second place in the conference. Ironically, in that league up there, Wayne State and Detroit has 5 losses or 6 in their first place. Overall, they have that. Grand Valley has 8 losses. The rest of the league has 11 or more losses. And then you come to ours, and Wesleyan has 5 in the conference. We have 5. St. Joe has 5, and Ashland has 4. So the last 4 games are obviously critical. The nice thing is St. Joe goes to Kentucky State and Bellarmine, 2 tough games on the road. We get to go to St. Joe and Lewis the last week of the year next week with Ashland as a traveling partner. So we have this Thursday Indianapolis and Northern Kentucky. Obviously, we have to take them one game at a time, but right now we're looking at the nice thing is, we were awful Saturday when it comes right down to it. Now we get to play the last place team of the conference at home, and we've already beaten by, I think, 30 points at their place. You couldn't ask for a better break from the schedule the way it turns out right now, as far as to get some team continuity together, get some confidence going again, to straighten out anything we can, to get our mindset back, to work out any problems that we have right now. It's not like we have Kentucky Wesleyan coming in here Thursday, or we're going to Kentucky Wesleyan. So the schedule is, the one break we have right now is we have 2 home games this week, and we're playing the last place team first. So, and Northern Kentucky gets to go to Ashland Thursday, so hopefully that'll wear them out before they come here Saturday. So obviously every game is a must-win for us. Mm-hmm. And then we have to rely on other things happening. We need Wayne State to win their postseason conference tournament up there in Michigan next week, because if they don't and they get an at-large bid, then their automatic winner is going to get a bid also.
Right.
Our winner is going to get an automatic bid, and then there's only going to be one at-large out of our league if that happens. There's a lot of combinations. There's a lot of basketball to be played a lot yet. Everybody has 3 or 4 games, and plus the Michigan Conference has their postseason tournament. So there's so many variables right now. All of a sudden, it's the point where we can't control our total destiny. We can only control what happens these next 4 games. And if we're 22-6 and things work out the right way, maybe a 4-game winning streak and having that many wins, that'd be a school record for most wins. We'll get in the tournament then.
What do you think about the postseason tournament in the conference? I know you mentioned the GLIAC, the conference in Michigan. Their conference champion is determined by the tournament, whereas in our league we're similar to the Big Ten, and it's the regular season champion gets the automatic bid.
And there's very few conferences in the United States which do not have a postseason tournament. I think in Division I, the Pac-10 canceled theirs last year. Mm-hmm. Big Ten hasn't had one. There's only 3 or 4 in the United States.
I think the Ivy League is the only other one.
Ivy League, right, doesn't have that. In Michigan, I like the way they do it. They have 9 teams in the conference. Next year they'll have 10 because Northwood gets put back in the conference next year. But they have 9. Only the top 4 get in, which is a nice way of doing it, because the regular season means something. Mm-hmm. Then the top 4 get in. They all go to they play one less game. They all play 27, and they have to leave the last weekend open, the Friday and Saturday open. And what they do is, it's nice because they all 4 teams will be at the regular season conference champion site. For example, Wayne State wins it. Say Oakland, Grand Valley, Saginaw Valley are 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They all go to Wayne State on Friday, and they just duke it out. First place 4th, second place 3rd, 2 winners play Saturday. So it's an actual tournament atmosphere. I think it's good because it gives the 4th place team a fighting chance. They've worked hard all year. A couple injuries didn't go their way. A couple bad breaks, a couple free throws, a couple bad calls. They're 2 games out, 3 games out, like us, for example. If we're 1 game out of the first, or 2 games out of first, or St. Joe who's coming on, if they end up 4th, it'd be great, a team like that, to get in the tournament. Sure, you have the disadvantage of playing at your opponent's site, but you earn that right to.
Right, they earned that by winning the league.
So it means something. And then they get to the point where that tournament prepares them, I think, a little bit for the next weekend.
Sure.
Because now they're playing do or die in a tournament situation, for the conference championship. Now they get to go to the in-state tournament and play the same scenario, Friday, Saturday, where it's the 2 winners play Friday for the Saturday. So I think it's an advantage.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, with taking only the top 4 teams, then you don't get a team that's 8 and 20 that goes on a tear and gets in a tournament, leaving out 2 20 teams. Right.
If they get hot, right now Indianapolis is 8 and 16, I think. If they were to get hot and win the postseason conference tournament and have them in at 10 and 16,
then
you feel
the
bad
regular
about
season
that.
You might as well not play.
Right, and they could go and have a great showing in the tournament or get blown out right away.
Sure.
But it's nice and I understand that you don't want all 10 teams in because of budgetary constraints and travel and away games and stuff like that. And when you only have a Friday and Saturday, the kids are only missing Friday's classes. So it's not like if you have a postseason tournament, you're taking them out of school. And to finance it, you have 1 less game. So it's 1 less game where you have to pay officials and everything else like that. So it's not that bad of a scenario for administrators to look at in black and white, dollars and cents to look at.
Okay. Well, Andy, good luck to the team this week. A couple of home games. We'll be back in a minute after a brief sports break with IPFW student Alan Banks.
Here's a Channel 6 Sports Minute. I'm Alan Bangs. The men's volleyball team opened the Midwest Intercollegiate Volleyball Association season last week with a pair of home victories. On Friday night, the Volleydons rallied from a first-game loss to defeat Wisconsin-Milwaukee 14-16, 15-5, 15-8, and 15-6. Junior Raul Papaleo led the Volleydons with 16 kills. Sophomore Norman Almodovar added 15 kills. Saturday, the Dons had a look at Ohio State University. Papaleo and Almodovar again led the Dons with 15 kills apiece in a 15-9, 15-11, 15-12 IPFW win. Sophomore Loy Ball surpassed the 1,000 assist mark for the season in Saturday's match against Ohio State. He has averaged 15.4 assists per game through 65 games this season. This Saturday, IPFW will again see Wisconsin-Milwaukee, although this week they'll have to travel to Milwaukee for the match. Despite last weekend's 122-93 loss to Ashland University, the IPFW men's basketball team remains on pace to record its most successful Great Lakes Valley Conference campaign ever. In 7 years of competition in the GLVC, they have never finished any higher than third and have never won more than 10 conference games. Currently, Andy Piazza's Mastodons are tied for third place, and they have 9 victories with 4 games left to play. This week's basketball schedule sees both the IPFW men and Coach Eileen Kleinfelter's 18-6 Lady Dons at the Multipurpose Center Thursday against Indianapolis and at home on Saturday against Northern Kentucky. The women start at 6 p.m. each night, with the men getting underway at 8. For Channel 6 Sports, I'm Alan Bangs. Now back to the show.
Thanks, Alan. Welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm here now with IPFW women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelter. Eileen, your team was 2-0 last week, improved the record to 18-6. You started out with a game at Hillsdale, a team that came in with a pretty poor record, and the game was a little closer than we expected.
Yeah, we sort of got off to a slow start to begin with, and I'd have to say if your team's ever in a slump, we may have found ourselves in a slight slump at that time, trying to get things to gel offensively and defensively for us. It was a very physical game. No doubt, and it's just a situation that we had to deal with it. It's difficult to play on the road, and especially in a different league. I thought the kids handled it pretty well, and the times that they did close the margin, fairly close toward the end, we were able to pull it out and still win soundly. And a lot of people got to play, too, and that's another situation. I used the bench quite a bit.
Now, did you get a chance to either see Hillsdale or know much about them before the game?
Not really a great deal. I had a few films on them, and I spoke with a few people, a few coaches as far as scouting reports go, and was able to retrieve some information about them, but having never seen them live myself and having not played them since last year, and me not being here, of course, really we're going into the game probably not as well prepared as we would be for a conference game.
Now, you've had quite a few games like that this year where you played teams that are from out of the league, some of them not even Division II teams that you don't get a chance to see or know much about. Does that affect your pregame preparation at all? Do you prepare differently for different teams, or do you pretty much just prepare your own
We prepare
style?
the same way every time, and I'd have to say with our non-conference games, other than Hillsdale, I was able to get quite a bit of information through a film exchange especially, and between my assistant and myself, we were able to get out and watch them different times throughout the season.
Okay. Now, Saturday you went to Ashland, a team that you'd beaten rather soundly here, and won fairly easily again. What were some of the keys to that game?
Well, the team's feeling is that they felt they played their best basketball against Ashland as far as playing together as a team. Our intensity was very good defensively. I thought we did a real good job there. Offensively is probably one of our better nights in running our offense, and things just seemed to gel together. Everyone felt really confident. And again, a number of people got to play and contribute. Pam Edwards had an incredible night on the boards with, I believe, 18 rebounds. And Lisa did real well for us. Tina Manier was able to come in and shoot 3 of 4 from three-point range, which helped us out a great deal. Unfortunately, she was injured in the first half and had very limited play second half. They feel she had a mild concussion. So Jamie LaRue, our freshman, had to come in and handle the pressure real well at point and was able to score 5 points for us and get a couple steals. So I was very, very pleased with the team effort, and it was a really good feeling after the game that we felt we really kind of brought ourselves out of that slump that maybe we were experiencing at Hillsdale.
So is Tina going to be back in the lineup this week, do you think?
We're hoping that she will be. She was not able to practice yesterday. In addition to her concussion, she had a blow to the back of the neck as well, and she has a very stiff, sprained neck, and we're not sure she'll be practicing today or not, but we hope that she'll be back for us Thursday and Saturday.
Now, I understand Pam Edwards had kind of a rough time Saturday. Said there's some players just came in off the bench and pounded on her. How did she react to that?
She handled that very well. During a timeout, you know, she made comment to me that a few of the players were sent in just to beat her up. And, you know, that happens quite frequently, unfortunately, but Pam handled it very, very well and did not let it affect her game. She still continued to attack both offensively and defensively for us. And as I mentioned, you know, had a great night rebounding, ended up with 25 points. And she did have an injury first half as well. She and Tina Manier banged heads, and she had quite a knot on her head, but was able to finish the game for us, play almost the entire second half. But as far as people beating her up and being physical, she handled it extremely well and was able to play well.
Okay. Now this week you've got Indianapolis coming in Northern Kentucky. Now Indianapolis is a team, they I believe have 15 wins. They were ranked in the region earlier in the year. What do you expect to see on Thursday?
Well, anything can happen on any given night. We feel very good about our play, you know, at Indianapolis a few weeks ago. They're the type team that has been said to be sort of a roller coaster team. You know, they may play real well one night and the other night maybe not show up. Rest assured they're going to come to our place, being a conference game. You know, they're going to be ready to play us, and we're going to be ready to play them as well. Mm-hmm. And we feel very prepared for them, and knowing their offenses, the kids feel very comfortable with that, and the defenses that we use to defend that. Northern Kentucky, a strong team once again, one that we were not able to defeat down at their place, and we're hoping that home court advantage, and because it is winding down in the conference, we're going to be fired up to play, and I think the kids are feeling very optimistic about the things that could happen and the outcome for this coming week.
Now, what were some of the factors in that loss to Northern Kentucky that you might try to overcome this time?
Well, I would say, first of all, they were very physical, extremely physical, and I believe we really let them take us out of our game offensively. We were very impatient, had a lot of turnovers. Things started to go real well for us first half, and then we just kind of fell apart second half. I think fatigue was a factor too. You know, I didn't use as much bench as maybe I should have, and we were quite fatigued at the end. We just kind of fell apart, and the loss of 13 points was certainly not indicative of the entire game. They didn't start to pull away until the end, and then we fouled with just a few seconds to go, and they put 2 more free throws in. And, so it really was much more of a game than what the score indicates.
Now, how do you think this game might affect the regional rankings, the conference race, if you were to win?
Well, I definitely think it would be in our favor if we can take care of Indianapolis and then defeat someone like Northern Kentucky, who's ranked in the top 20. And then, of course, our last 2 games with Lewis, we have to take care of business, and St. Joe being ranked 6th in the nation. If we can come out with victories over those stronger schools, I definitely think that we would be considered, perhaps, for an NCAA tournament bid.
Were you surprised in the regional poll this week that we hadn't moved back up into the top 6 or 7?
Not surprised, based on the instability that has been occurring over the last few months with the polls. It really just is a matter of who beat who last. We beat Kentucky Wesleyan. They beat us. We pretty much split with everyone except for Northern Kentucky and St. Joe when it comes to those listed in the region. So I think it's just a matter of waiting to the end, see who beats who, and hopefully we'll end up on top.
Now, I asked Andy earlier about the postseason tournament, and when the GLIAC, the teams, the top 4 teams go to a postseason tournament, and that champion is the team that receives the automatic bid. What do you think about the conference tournament? Do you like it? Do you dislike it?
Having a conference
as far as
tournament?
having that tournament determine the automatic champion or the automatic bid.
Oh, sometimes it can be to your favor if you're not the team that's leading the conference in regular season play, regular conference play. It can be to your advantage. I think tournaments were designed for those teams who maybe weren't able to fare too well during conference play, and it gives them a chance. Maybe a Cinderella team, you know, could submerge and perhaps win the title and then have an opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament. I'd rather see as we have it without the tournament, just go with round robin throughout the conference and see who ends up with the best record.
If they were to have a tournament, would you like to see just maybe like the top 4 teams, or would you like to see the top 8 or all the teams?
Well, I guess I'd have to think about that more clearly if the time did arise. But I was with the OVC last year, and we took just the top 5 teams, and the top team would have a bye first round, and that seemed to work out real well. Tournaments are exciting; they can be a lot of fun, and it extends your play just a little bit longer as well. I'm not sure how I'd feel about that if they were to propose having a tournament for our conference.
Okay. What's the attitude of the team now as far as looking at the postseason? Do they think they have a realistic chance, or what is their feeling?
Well, I think that they're thinking very positive about, our remaining 4 games, and that's all we're really focusing on right now. I think we got into a situation when we were in the top 20 for a week and got ranked in the region, and looking at all the national statistics and so forth, and we kind of put ourselves in a position where we were playing not to lose rather than playing to win, and lost some of our excitement and enthusiasm as a result. And we brought ourselves back to, as I mentioned with our Ashland game, to just focusing on one game at a time and not concerning ourselves with NC2A tournament play, and just take care of the rest of the conference games, and whatever happens, happens.
Now, you had a change in the starting lineup this week. Dawn Dressler started. She had started the first, I think, 2 or 3 games of the year, and then Amy Hogan took over that spot up until the Hillsdale game, and now Dawn Dressler's in the lineup. What was some of the reasons for that move?
Well, a couple of things factored in. Number one, Dawn Dressler's just been doing extremely well for us. And if you recall back in earlier games, Dawn Dressler did start for us, and Amy Hogan kind of took that away from her, and now the table's kind of turned back again. Dawn's just been doing an incredible job on the boards for us, especially on the offensive end. And I spoke with her too. I said, Dawn, if you could become a little bit more of an offensive threat for us, you really could see some more playing time. And as a result, she's driving to the hole for us. She's getting putbacks with the offensive boards, and she's taking some longer range shots for us. She had the 3-point shot at the buzzer at halftime, which really gave us a boost in the Ashland game. And Amy's been doing real well for us as well. I used her as a defensive player, basically, and did not put a lot of pressure or demands as far as scoring goes. She has been ill this past week, and that may have had a little bit to do with her play. But she's going to see a lot of playing time as well.
How she responded to the move?
Very well. I mean, she understands that she took Dawn's starting spot earlier on in pre-conference play, and she knows that she's still going to be able to contribute and get some playing time.
Okay. Now, you've got 4 players on the team averaging close to 30 minutes a game, and they've been averaging that pretty much all season. Do you think that's are the players fatigued in any way?
I've been real pleased with our endurance over the last month and a half. Probably since the Northern Kentucky game, as I mentioned, the fatigue may have been a factor there. But our travel has been such that we're really not, wearing ourselves out too much. Maybe a little lighter in the classroom as far as academic load. We have shortened our practices a little bit now that we're winding down. We've stopped lifting weights. So I think all of that factors in as far as having a little bit more rest going into the game. And I haven't really noticed fatigue, even though maybe I'm not playing as many people.
What's it going to mean to be back at home? You played your last 4 games on the road, haven't been at home had a home game for about 2 weeks.
Well, we all love to play at home. Certainly helps us out not having to travel and so forth. And we play, I think very well on our court, but unfortunately I just have this feeling that a lot of our opponents seem to shoot very well on our floor. It's been a pattern that a lot of teams coming in are maybe averaging 40% from the field, and they'll have a 57% night, against us on our floor. So it may have something to do with our baskets and the play that the Rims have, or they just get fired up to play us. Our gym is exciting. We have, a lot of fans, a pep band, and it's just a fun place to play.
Okay. Well, I'd like to wish the team good luck this week. I'd like to remind everyone, IPFW men's and women's teams will close out the home portion of their schedule this week. The women and the men will play Indianapolis on Thursday night and Northern Kentucky on Saturday night. Both games can be seen on Channel 6.
IPFW presents world-class volleyball competition Tuesday night, March 17th at the Memorial Coliseum as the number 3 ranked U.S. men's national team battles the number 1 ranked Cuban nationals. Smashing serves, punishing slams, diving digs. You won't have to go to Barcelona to see this gold medal match. Catch the high-flying action of international volleyball as the U.S. men take on the Cubans March 17th at the Memorial Coliseum. Tickets start at $6, available at Ticketmaster and the Coliseum. Proceeds going to the Hilliard Gates Scholarship Fund. IPFW presents world-class volleyball competition Tuesday night, March 17th at the Memorial Coliseum as the number 3 ranked U.S. men's national team battles the number 1 ranked Cuban nationals. Smashing serves, punishing slams, diving digs. You won't have to go to Barcelona to see this gold medal match. Catch the high-flying action of international volleyball as the U.S. men take on the Cubans March 17th at the Memorial Coliseum. Tickets start at $6, available at Ticketmaster and the Coliseum. Proceeds going to the Hilliard Gates Scholarship Fund.
Hello and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Dave Hilbert, IPFW Sports Information Director. With me now is IPFW head men's basketball coach Andy Piazza. Andy, the team had a couple more wins this week. You put yourself in real good shape to get a postseason bid. Let's start out with Thursday's game against Indy. Dwayne Shears, obviously, the star of that game. 31 points, had 10 three-pointers, tied the GOVC record, only missed 1 shot. What do you have for breakfast Thursday?
I don't know. We want to figure out what he had for lunch and pregame meal and everything else. It was funny, after the game, somebody asked him about his shooting that night, and our assistant coach, Dick Dumanian, said, well, I worked with him a little bit before practice on Wednesday on his shooting technique, and everybody laughing after the game. But, yeah, he was 10 for 11 from the floor, 10 for 11 from threes, never attempted a 2-pointer, and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. The amazing thing is making 10 three-pointers in a game, set a school record, and tied a GLVC record. But more amazing is being 10 for 11 from threes. You could be 10 of 18, right, 10 of 20, whatever like that. But to be 10 of 11, and everybody says it's, a lot of people think that the three-point line is too close, and it's an easy shot, but it's not that easy of a shot when you're on the run. It's still 19-9 away. It's not like shooting a layup. But it's a credit to the other players on the court realizing that he had the hot hand, especially our guards, our point guards. We ran some specials for Dwayne when we knew he had the hot hand. Some of our out-of-bounds plays when he's the inbounder, we run for him when he's like that. Also, from the bench, we can call, different series also. We have a three-point special where a lot of times Andre Walton would just dribble enter to his side, to Dwayne's side, and then he'd run a baseline cut. We run a double stagger pick and throw the skip pass over the top to Dwayne, and he was wide open. See, the thing is, Indianapolis runs a matchup zone, and when you flatten out the baseline people and overload and then throw opposite, they have a lot of times trouble adjusting. Especially our post players do a great job of backpicking and sealing off that help side defender in the lane. So Dwayne was getting wide open shots.
Well,
then again, he's got to make them.
I was going to ask you that earlier. I mean, it seemed like just about every shot he took, he was wide open. There's nobody in his face. And I was wondering,
it's a credit to Dwayne in the fact that he doesn't force very many shots, and he works pretty hard to get open. And you have to give credit to his teammates out there on the court because of the fact that they set very good screens. And our point guards are very good now at getting the ball to open people out of our set offense. They've played 26 games together now, so they know our system, they know each other. And then again, he's got to knock them down. So it was just one of those career nights when he was in that zone, and You know, if I had known he'd tied the GOVC record, you know, if our sports information director would have came down to the bench and told me that, I would have put him back in to try to let him set the record, because he played 28 minutes, and he could have played more. But in a game like that, when you're up that many points and we play so many people, you want to give everybody some quality minutes, 6, 7, 8 quality minutes of playing time, so they feel part of the win, so they get game experience, everything else. So I guess somewhat we sacrifice him setting a new school record by getting other people into the flow of the game.
Sure. Then you came back Saturday with another win over Northern Kentucky, a team you beat by, I believe, only 6 points at their place. A team that's played, I think, 6 overtime games. They beat Kentucky Wesleyan, always a tough team. You came in pretty high, but had a pretty easy time.
Northern Kentucky swept us last year, first time ever, and since I've been here that's happened. And Northern Kentucky on Thursday only lost at Ashland 89-85. So obviously we were concerned about that game a lot, because they have athletes, they have shooters, they have a great player in David Marshall. Greg Filia had 30-some points at Ashland. They have 2 or 3 guards they bring in off the bench. They're very good role players. And Svoboda, the big kid inside, is always trouble for us. And at their place, we were down 10 with 9 minutes to go and had to rally like crazy just to get ahead in that game. But amazingly, our defense is what turned it for us there. They did not get very many easy shots, and when they did, they only got 1. We were defensive rebound very well, ran the break awfully well. It seems like they were getting more tired at the end. I don't know if we have fresher legs because we play more kids, or because our practices with the last month of the season, since February 1st, we've cut down to hour and a half, hour and 15-minute practices, just to try to keep fresh legs, taking 1 day off a week, sometimes 2 days off a week. Yesterday in practice, we only went for an hour, just to have fresh legs and fresh minds come Thursday and Saturday. And it seems to pay off a lot of times on Saturday, because we're not as drained from Thursday night's game. But I was surprised. It was actually 74-57 at one time, a 27-point lead, and the game there was like almost 10 minutes to go in the game. The game was basically over with. Yet as a coach, you're always worried. They cut it to 17-point lead, but it just stayed at that the whole time. And we had a lot of people get a lot of minutes, and like Sean Gibson was 2 of 7 from the floor, I think, and 2 of 8 from the free throw line. Didn't shoot very well. And Dwayne Shears only had 10 points, and we still, as a team, scored 100. But just to show you the value of like a Sean Gibson in that game, he had 17 rebounds. Eric came off the bench and scored 17 points and had some nice passes to people. And everybody just played hard and played well. And it was a nice way for the seniors to end their home regular season career. I say regular season that for one of the 4 teams in the postseason tournament. We have Arnie Ball, our athletic director, has put in to bid for that if we're one of the 4 teams in the Great Lakes region in the NCAA tournament. That doesn't guarantee we're going to get it, but we've put in a bid for it, and if we get it, we'll have 2 more home games come the 13th and 14th of March. But it was nice to have a large crowd like that. We almost had 1,000 people, and it was on TV again, and high school night and everything like that. So it was great to have end the home campaign in 11-2 record also.
Okay, now this week you're going to end the season on the road. You're going to Lewis, a team we pretty much hammered earlier in the year, tied the school scoring record against them, 117 points. And then Saturday you go to St. Joe, a team that's been on a rampage lately. They started out kind of middle of the pack, were I believe 13-7, 12-7. Now they're 19-7, moved up to 5th or 6th in the region. Kind of a scary game Saturday night.
First of all, Thursday's game, Lewis is 8th or 9th in the conference, but they play very, very hard. Their man-to-man defense is very good. They pressure the ball very well. They have a lot of very good athletes. They haven't really put it together offensively. They don't shoot very well. And in this league, if you don't shoot very well, you can do all the other things as well as you're capable of or better than other teams, and you're not going to win a lot of games. They've won their handful of games, but they're always very competitive. And the thing you have to remember about Lewis, they beat Kentucky Wesleyan at Kentucky Wesleyan, 71-70. So with that in mind, if you take anybody light, you're going to lose. If you don't play hard all the time, you're going to lose. But we beat Lewis at Lewis last year. We beat them by 36 points at home, but that was a situation where we were on a roll, and they just didn't play very well. I don't think we're 36 points better than Lewis. But so obviously the nice thing is Thursday, the kids can't look past Thursday because of the fact that we need every win to get in the tournament. And then we turn around, we drive back from Lewis. We're in school Friday. We turn around and go to Rensselaer, Indiana on Saturday. So it's going to be interesting to see. Ashland plays at St. Joe on Thursday. If Ashland wins, I don't think anybody's going to catch them. I think they'll beat Lewis on Saturday and win the conference championship. If they lose to St. Joe, then St. Joe, Wesleyan, Ashland, and ourselves are all tied for first. And so it comes down to we have to beat St. Joe on Saturday. We've beaten them. My first year we lost at home to them, and we've beaten them ever since. So I don't know what our winning streak is against them, but eight games
times
in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And we swept them the last 2 or 3 years. And so it's a situation now where St. Joe has a lot of momentum. They've won 6 games straight. And all of a sudden there's a lot of pressure on them. They won 2 games in a row last week. Now they have must wins at home. I mean, and sometimes at home with your crowd and everything else, the 2 top teams coming in puts so much pressure on you that you don't play as well. I'm not sure if that's the case that's going to happen, but and then Saturday when we play, it's going to be senior night. They're going to be sky high emotionally, and if they beat Ashland Thursday, they're just going to think they can take on the world. So we have to, go against all those different things, and they're a tough place to play. But we've never lost over there this is my 5th year now, so we're not that concerned about that, home court advantage situation. They're not as deep as we are. They play a lot of kids, but the kids coming off the bench are more role players than anything else, and we just have to play intelligently. And if we do that, I have total confidence in our kids this week, and they know what's at stake. We've had games where we should have won that we've lost, and have games we should have lost and did win. So 2 1-point losses and 1 3-point losses, and we're 20-6 all of a sudden. So they know that 2 more wins this week, and they're going to get an NCAA tournament bid on Sunday, and we get to go play again next week. And that'll be the first time ever in the school's history. 21 wins is the school record for most wins, so we can break that this week. We're 20-6 right now. That's the 3rd time in 4 years, in the past 4 years here at IPFW, that we've won 20 games or more. And you have to remember that we're losing 20 games a year when we arrived here in 1987. So, and that was the 6th 21 season for me in my 8 years of college coaching. So that's always a nice goal, because 20 wins means you have a very successful season. But we're to the point now where we're so spoiled, we expect to win 20 every year, and we want to get in the NCAA tournament. So we would consider a successful season by getting a tournament bid. And we're going to do something when we get there.
Now, where does that stand right now? I know we're 4th in the region, which was a huge leap this week to get generally the top 4 teams will go. And last week we were 5th, now we're 4th.
We've been in the top 4, I think, most of the season, and we were tied for 5th a couple weeks, and we dropped out last week to 5th, and now we're back to 4th. Wayne State's number 1, and they're 21-6. They lead the Michigan Conference, the GLIAC up there, and they host the GLIAC postseason conference tournament, which are the top 4 teams. So that's an advantage to them. We need them to win it, just to make sure nobody else slips in, because that's the automatic bid. Kentucky Wesleyan's number 2, Ashland's number 3, we're number 4. Grand Valley's number 5 at 18-9, and St. Joe is number 6 at 19-7. See, St. Joe has 1 more loss than Ashland and Kentucky Wesleyan and ourselves, so they can't afford another loss. If they have another loss, they're going to be out of it. So it's a situation where we need to win both games. For security's sake, we'd like Wayne State to win their conference tournament up there, so they get in and nobody else will. Because 2nd place is right now is Grand Valley with 9 losses. Wayne State wins it, we win our last 2. It's almost a for sure. I say that because I don't make the decisions, but it's almost a for sure on the 8th that we'll get a bid. We win our next 2. Wayne State doesn't win their conference tournament. I don't know what happens then. Do they take 5 from our region? Do they ship one of us to another region? Again, I don't make those decisions, though.
What have they done in the past, I mean, as far as moving teams out of the region?
Last year they moved Kentucky Wesleyan to the West 1 region, to the Missouri region. They brought in a Missouri team here because we had so many from the conference. But we didn't have the strength, I guess, in the past like we did this year as far as the regions are concerned. But like you alluded to before, we had the show, there's some regions that are very weak. They don't like to move them too far, though. Like they won't send us to the West Coast because of financial reasons, obviously. Right. So we just need to have our selection committee be very powerful when it comes to picking the 32 teams, because there's supposed to be 4 from every region, and if the situation is such that it deserves a 5th team, they'll do that.
Okay, well, I'd wish the team good luck this weekend. Hope you get some good news on Sunday.
Okay.
And we'll be back after a sports break with IPFW women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelder.
IPFW presents World Class Volleyball Competition Tuesday night, March 17th at the Memorial Coliseum as the number 3 ranked U.S. men's national team battles the number 1 ranked Cuban nationals. Smashing serves, punishing slams, diving digs. You won't have to go to Barcelona to see this gold medal match. Catch the high-flying action of international volleyball as the U.S. men take on the Cubans March 17th at the Memorial Coliseum. Tickets start at $6, available at Ticketmaster and the Coliseum. Proceeds going to the Hilliard Gates Scholarship Fund.
Here's a Channel 6 Sports Minute. I'm Alan Banks. The IPFW Volleydons haven't made any special plans to head for Daytona Beach or any other part of Florida for spring break. They'll all be together for a big California trip where they'll have matches with 4 top 20 opponents, including number 5 USC. Next week, the 8th-ranked 14-5 Volleydons also have matches against Loyola Marymount, UC Irvine, and UC Santa Barbara. The IPFW men's basketball team improved its postseason hopes with a pair of conference wins last Thursday. Last Thursday, the Dons defeated the University of Indianapolis 117-85. On Saturday, IPFW beat Northern Kentucky University 100-83. In order to have a good chance at postseason play, the Dons first have to beat Lewis on Thursday and then get a win at Kentucky Wesleyan on Saturday. The Dons are currently tied for second in the Great Lakes Valley Conference with Kentucky Wesleyan. Should first place Ashland U lose and IPFW win both of their games, the Mastodons would find themselves in a first-place tie. Although Ashland defeated IPFW twice this season, a strong finish would make the Dons hard to ignore by the tournament committee. Coach Andy Piazza will be anxiously waiting by the phone on Sunday. That's when the pairings will come out. The Lady Dons basketball team find themselves in much the same predicament. They are currently third in the GLVC. A pair of wins this week paired with a Northern Kentucky loss would put the 14-4 Lady Dons in second place behind St. Joseph's. Again, a strong finish might catch the eyes of the tournament committee. The Lady Dons will also have a shot at St. Joseph's on Saturday with a game Thursday at Lewis. Last week, the Lady Dons scored home victories against Indianapolis and Northern Kentucky. For Channel 6 Sports, I'm Alan Banks. Now back to the show.
Thanks, Alan. Welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm here now with IPFW women's basketball coach Eileen Kleinfelder. Eileen, your team had a couple of more wins last week, got closer into the postseason hunt, moved up a couple of notches in the region. You started out Thursday with a fairly easy win over Indianapolis.
Yes, I really didn't expect us to beat them by the margin that we did. Our girls just played extremely well. I'm real pleased with everyone. They're really pulling together at the right time of the year. We went out and from the start against Indianapolis took the lead and pretty much maintained it throughout the game. And I was very pleased with our man-to-man defense, and everyone got in and got to contribute a little bit. I want to make special mention of Jamie LaRue, our freshman, who had to step in and replace our starting point guard Tina Manier due to an injury. She did an outstanding job and ended up playing about 39 minutes. And even though she has a slight injury to her rib cartilage, she played with a lot of pain, and I want to give her a lot of credit for that. And as well as everyone else. Everyone came in and did some very nice things, and we felt very good about our defeat against Indianapolis.
Okay, then Saturday you came in, played Northern Kentucky, ranked 16th in the country. They were second place in the league, beating us earlier in the year by about 13, and came out with a 7-point win. What happened differently in that game as opposed to the game down in Cincinnati earlier in the year?
One thing I'd have to say is I was very pleased with the number of times that we got to go to the free throw line. And I think that had a lot to do with it. You get someone like Lisa Miller who's always driving into the lane and putting up a lot of shots, and if she's not going to get the calls and not go to the line, she was 12 of 12 from the free throw line. I ended up with 34 points, but I was very pleased with the number of times we got to go to the line. I'd have to say, too, that our turnovers were very minimal. We held ourselves only 11 turnovers, which is well below our goal. We've been averaging about 20, 22 sometimes, and that certainly made a difference. I'd also have to say probably both our shooting percentages. Down in Northern Kentucky, we only shot 40% from the field, and we did much better this, well over 50%. And This time around also from the free throw line. We were 74% as opposed to, I believe it was about 62 down at their place. Rebounding as well is something that we've been focusing on, and I think we really hit the boards. We got an exceptional number of offensive boards and scored on some putbacks, especially Dawn Dressler. She had 7 rebounds, 5 of which were offensive rebounds, and she put a few back in for 2 points. She had a very good game.
What about Shelly Sands? I know you've been looking to her all year for a little bit more rebounding. She ended up with 11 rebounds.
Yeah, that was something I made comment about after the game, and she was kind of laughing about it, but she did have 11 rebounds, and it was only averaging about 5.5 up until that time, and I just asked her where she's been hiding it all, why she saved to the last game. But all the seniors, of course, played with a lot of emotion, and I was real pleased because it was an emotional time for them, being their last home game. They were able to put that into action on the floor, and turned out a positive result for us.
Okay, now looking ahead to this week, on Thursday, you're going to Lewis, a team that we beat pretty handily. They're toward the bottom of the league. What do you look for in the game Thursday? And are you afraid at all of the team maybe looking past Lewis to the big one with St. Joe on Saturday?
Well, we continue to talk about one game at a time. And a lot of people are talking to us about the St. Joe game, and that's the game we have to win. And all of us respond by, we have Lewis first. Lewis is a much improved team, and playing on their home floor might make a difference for them. We're just going to take it one game at a time. We're going to prepare for Lewis like we do any other team and focus on them, and once we get by them, we'll concern ourselves with St. Joe's.
Now, the St. Joe game, what do you look to do differently, or do you look to do anything differently against them than you did back in January?
Well, I don't want to reveal too much of our game plan here. One thing I would have to say, we played them clear back January 2nd. I think we're a much improved ball club when it comes to offensive execution. I think we're getting after the boards, and our rebounding has much improved. We've moved up in the rankings in the rebound margin and total rebounds. We're playing together very well as a team. Our offense is starting to gel, and I think we've made some improvements too in our man-to-man defense. And all of those things may factor in for a better outcome this time around.
What were some of the reasons for the loss the first time?
Well, a number of reasons. I would have to say they shot 47 free throws to our 20, and I never want to use that as an excuse, but that certainly helped them. We got ourselves, in a hole from the start, and then had to dig ourselves out of it. We were down by as many as 21 points, came back within 2. We were only down by 4 with 40 seconds to go, and then had a foul toward the end, stop the clock, being that we were out of timeouts, and then they won the game by 10 points. It was very difficult for us to stop their inside play. Tia Glass and Sloan Hoy, a great combination at the post play, and they're difficult to stop, and we're going to see what we can do this time around.
Okay, now, as I alluded to earlier, we moved up from, we weren't included in the regional poll last 2 weeks. Now we moved up to 6th with the win. Just knowing what you do and having talked to different people around the league, where would you say our postseason chances are right now?
Well, I have a little bit of confusion when it comes to these rankings, because it seems that some teams can beat, someone beat us and popped into the top 20, yet we can beat 3 ranked teams and only end up 6th or 7th in the regional ranking. I guess what it's going to take is just for us to win our last 2 ball games and see where we go from there.
Okay, now you mentioned earlier the change at the point guard. Tina Manier's injured. What exactly happened to her?
At the Ashland game a couple of weeks ago, she hit heads with Pam Edwards, our other post player, and went back into the game, and they both seemed to be all right. And Tina started to become dizzy and had a lot of turnovers and things, and I was recommended by the trainer to take her out, and so I did, and she ended up with a concussion and had some tests done later on, and she has some inflammation of the cerebellum, and they just said that she'd be out for the rest of the season. It was a moderate case, but she is out for the rest of the season due to that concussion at Ashland.
Is she going to be ready for next year?
Oh, certainly.
What do you do to recover from that, or is it just a matter of sitting out and resting and not playing?
It's a matter of, yes, just sitting out, resting, and that's basically all she can do. She was also hit in the back of the neck by one of their players and suffered a very stiff neck, and that's still, she hasn't recovered totally from that yet. And probably the hardest thing for her to recover from is just the hurt and frustration of not being able to finish out the season. But she has contributed in many other ways. She was Jamie LaRue's little quarterback on the bench. I, as a coach, was very demanding on Jamie, and Tina was kind of a little buffer. During dead ball play or at the end of a timeout, Tina may give a little suggestion to the point guard. So she really was a little student coach on the bench, and she found her way to contribute, and I was very pleased with that.
And how would you kind of compare Jamie's play, or kind of compare and contrast Jamie's play to Tina's in terms of how she runs the club?
Well, I think there's a little bit of difference. I think Jamie has a little more quickness, which may help us. However, she doesn't have the perimeter attack that Tina does. And, you know, maybe that was something because Tina had so much on her shoulders in running the offense as a point guard that she really wasn't able to free herself up for the longer range shots. You know, she got her few three-point shots in the games, but, you know, Jamie doesn't have that range. Jamie's more of a penetrator. She can draw the foul. She'll take it to the hole if someone leaves a gap. But she's just a little scrappy player. You know, I'm delighted that I have her for 3 more years. She's all over the floor after all the loose balls, trying to get a tip just to get any little slight advantage that we might get. But as far as running the team, you know, they both display a great deal of leadership. You know, being as young as Jamie is, she just did a very good job running the offense for us in these last 2 games, and she had to play a lot of minutes. She played 39 minutes against Indianapolis and 40 minutes against Northern Kentucky.
What about some of the other players on your bench? I know Michelle Conley came in, played quite a few minutes on Saturday against Northern Kentucky. You know, Kim Recker's been playing quite a bit off the bench. How have they helped contribute to the team, especially in recent games?
Well, Michelle Conley is someone that I have talked to, you know, throughout the season, and telling her that she is probably one of our better post-defensive players. And it seemed at different times throughout the game that was the only area that they were scoring, you know, getting the ball into the post player. So, you know, Pam got in early foul trouble first half. Michelle got to get in. She did a very good job of holding Middleton down inside. Second half, Pam had a slight sprain to the ankle, and Michelle had to go back in and finish the game out after that. Unfortunately, she played 15 minutes and fouled out, so you know, that's something we need to work on. She could play a little bit longer without getting in foul trouble. But she was able to go in and bang around a little bit and mix it up on the defensive end, which really helped us out. And you know, we need to get her to score a little more. I believe she was 2 of 2 from the field, and ended up with just a few rebounds, and that's something we need to focus on. But defensively, she really did a good job. You know, Kim Recker is someone who's going to come in and she's going to get a few offensive boards for you and get a few putbacks. People have a tendency sometimes to forget about her, and she'll end up on that block all by herself. Just about every game, someone's able to get an assist inside to her.
Okay, now this is a question I've asked, I think, each of the last couple of weeks. What is kind of the attitude of the team? Are they, now that this is the final weekend, and I know you have a lot of seniors, players that won't be back, has you seen any change in their attitude, their confidence level, maybe after the win Saturday? Or have they pretty much maintained the same confidence all year?
I think since the Hillsdale game, things have improved daily as far as their confidence and just the enthusiasm with the team. Because at that point, and this is something we discussed as a team, we felt that there was kind of a blanket of pressure on us, especially after losing to Kentucky Wesleyan. That was a difficult loss for us. We felt like we were playing basically, you know, not to lose, and we decided to change that attitude, and now we're playing to win. And I would have to say that our attitude and enthusiasm and team unity is probably the best it's been all year, and it's getting better. The girls, the confidence has just escalated, especially since the Northern Kentucky game. But we're very, very ready and eager to play Lewis and St. Joe's.
Okay, well, wish you the same thing I wished Andy earlier. Hope you get good news on Sunday. I'd like to remind everyone the NCAA will announce the pairings and the sites for both the men's and women's tournaments on Sunday, March 8th. So stay tuned to the local media to find out what happens.
IPFW presents World Class Volleyball Competition Tuesday night, March 17th at the Memorial Coliseum as the number 3 ranked U.S. men's national team battles the number 1 ranked Cuban nationals. Smashing serves, punishing slams, diving digs. You won't have to go to Barcelona to see this gold medal match. Catch the high-flying action of international volleyball as the U.S. men take on the Cubans March 17th at the Memorial Coliseum. Tickets start at $6, available at Ticketmaster and the Coliseum. Proceeds going to the Hilliard Gates Scholarship Fund.